You're listening to All Things 3D, where we talk about the world of fabricating, designing, and capturing in the third dimension.
Morning, everybody. Hi, this is Mike Balzer, and it appears my Daydream controller has stopped working. Oh, there we go. So this morning I wanted to kind of go over, as I mentioned in the title, my 3D Spookery items. And one of the things I'm going to start off with is this new one that just came out from the people who made the movie It. So let's go ahead and launch it. Now, if you're hearing audio right now, the sad thing is many, including my own app, when you use this new this mode that allows you to see the screen that you are now, the screencasting, for some reason does not allow video or audio. And so I'm going to go ahead and launch it so you can see it. See, Google VR Services audio casting. So it's kind of cool. You start off and it gives you the ability to choose your path, face your fears, escape the house. So let's choose this one. So if you've seen the movie, this should all look fairly familiar to you. So I'm going to go ahead and just choose the not scary at all, which there we go. Now, I need to warn you, since I've seen this already, there is some spookery that goes on, and it's going to come out and grab you right now. So luckily we didn't have any audio there, but the audio behind us is pretty chilling as well. So as you can see, it's pretty well done. Essentially, more than likely this was all done in 3D. We'll go ahead and flash the Now, what's funny is they don't use any buttons. It's strictly just ray casting, moving your flashlight in front of you. This is kind of spooky because I think they've combined actually 3D animation as well as video. Now, I'm going to turn around because this one actually, you can look behind you as well as forward, but I'll go ahead and do this. Oh, there you go. So the screen comes on. So as you noticed, it looked like the actual actor. It wasn't actually a 3D animated character. So it didn't have the three-dimensionality of the rest of the scene here, but it's still fairly frightening if you weren't expecting it. I'm going to go ahead and close off at this particular moment. And then jump back to the screen here. So there are plenty of others. There is a few from The Walking Dead, which are 360 videos, one where you're sitting in a car. Obviously, if you're familiar, Sisters was another application that came out, gosh, almost at the start of cardboard that became very popular. I don't know if this version will go ahead and go into the Play Store. If you're not familiar with Daydream, it takes you into a Play Store. Yeah, it's 99 cents. Um, the other app that we just looked at from Warner Brothers is also 99 cents. Um, okay, so here's a few others. Some of these have been around for a little while, and then you can go back to your home. So if you never use Daydream, it's pretty nice. As you can see now, I am using my Neoti IO Play Pocket, which is a foldable version with the optional headset so that I can use it now. The Pocket's kind of cool because it uses 50 millimeter Fresnel lenses. So it really works very well with the new Pixel 2 XL screen. It really feels very immersive, even though, as you can see here, I just have these little flaps, so you can still see the outside world. But if you need something very pocketable that you can throw in a bag, use maybe on a subway or something where you do want to be able to kind of know what you're doing outside of what's inside the VR experience, this might be something to look at. Hopefully, I will have that available by the end of the year. That's my hopes, at least. Okay, so getting back to, there's a lot of other games out here. Most of them are 99 cents to $4. And so if you have a Daydream headset, grab a few of them, as you saw in the It. They're pretty well done and are pretty scary. I only got through the first level, and there are 3 different levels, so I didn't even venture into the other 2 levels. Okay, well, let's look at some other spookery in 3D. And let me just jump out of this and get into, let's see, right into, I've lost my mouse. There we go. Into the first item is that we can take this and go right into Shapeways. Let me take that off my head. And the Shapeways, geez, I didn't go far enough. So I have a ton of models in here for a lot of things that I've designed. I wouldn't say I pretty much use Shapeways exclusively, but I have used them extensively. They're very affordable. Their parts, like a lot of SLS, is pretty good. But what I wanted to show you, if I can bring it up, why isn't it showing up? Let's go a little further, is the little 3D character that I created of my wife. I think it was, geez, I don't know why it's disappeared. Interesting. Oh, well, maybe I just, oh, here it is. Siobhan, Day of the Dead. So I did this in 2015. And the way that I went around, or about doing it, there you go, is I 3D scanned her using the structure sensor and the ITSY's 3D software, uploaded it, and conveniently, I think the version now does immediately go upload it to Shapeways. If not, you can then import the application or the file directly into your machine and then upload it. There are a few caveats. One, I don't know if it's still the case, but at one time they only supported, what was it, a PDF 3D format? No, I can't think of it right now. But there was only one specific format that they allowed color in, and I had to do some conversions to it. But the results are pretty good. Let me jump to my other camera here so you can see it for yourself. I guess I'll have to do it backwards. Okay. So there you go. We put it in a little box and we have it displayed on the wall. So if you're doing a costume this year and you own a structure sensor or even some of these photogrammetry capture application, I would highly recommend using that, capturing it, then you can 3D print your little model after the fact, which I think is a pretty fun little thing to do. So there you go. And I've done a few other models as well. If you know, I spilled a little coffee this morning on my setup. Where it is. Where are my other models? Oh, I had them on my display set. But that's why the red towel there. All right, so let's jump back to this. So this particular model was not too bad in plastics, but if you go to color, come on, yeah, no, it's not too bad. 1748, and then they had this new coated full color sandstone, which I did manually for 24. So that's not bad for that little tiny one. Obviously, if you increase the size, that will also geometrically increase in price. But regardless, I think that's pretty affordable if you want a little tiny bust like the one that I just showed off. My wife also scanned me, but I don't know if she didn't keep the camera still, but mine came out blurry, so I never was able to actually bring mine up here. Okay, so let's look at something else from the scanning perspective. This is, I'm going to just jump back to my main camera since I don't have the iPad hooked up so that we can view it. All right, so there we go. So if you've had an opportunity to look at Coret or Dreamit or actually what is it called? Argit. This is a model that I created. I scanned a mask that I found. I kind of shaped it a little bit and then scanned it in. And then I was able to download this and then reshape a little bit more, clean up the textures a little bit, and actually add it to that little app. And if you've seen in the last couple of episodes, he shows up very briefly at the end of it. So if you don't want to spend any money on some of these other scare apps, you might want to jump out to my own app, and which would be right here, Dreamit. So for a Daydream, so it works on all Daydream devices, and it's pretty simple, not as what do you want to call it? Sophisticated as the Warner Brother version, but it's free, has a couple of scares in it, so download it if you do have a Daydream type device. All right, so let's jump back to our next item, which is this little article from Road to VR that came out that talks about 20 spooky VR titles, and a lot of them are discounted right now. One that I was interested in trying, and I probably will now go ahead and buy it, is Arizona Sunshine, because now it's on sale for $30. I think it's originally like $49.95, which I was reluctant to buy at that price, but at this price, I am probably going to buy it. There are some others out there, and this is a great article, and just go ahead and jump through it and go to the Steam Halloween sale to grab a few of these while they're on sale right now. And this one's kind of cool. If I remember correctly, now this is the VR version, but they also had a 360 version that was pretty, I don't know if it was scary, but it was entertaining for a few seconds. So that's a great article. You can jump through it. Let's see, I've got a little video here that I can run. If I can find my VLC screen, there you go. So if I remember correctly, this was done using the Steam engine, if I remember correctly. I think that was the case. So if you're familiar with Left 4 Dead, this has a very similar feeling and experience to it. And like I said, at $50, it was a little bit out of my price range, but at $30, highly recommended. It has a what do you want to call it? A co-play, so that you can play with other people online. And it is a full, as you can see there, HTC Vive compatible. And so that means you can move around, duck, and so forth. So if you need some scares or just like the zombie, as you know, The Walking Dead started last week. So you can fulfill your needs to be part of the Walking Dead crew if you need to be. Okay, so let's jump back to our list. And we went through a few of the mobile items already. But I thought I would bring up this one, which has also been a big favorite on YouTube, Five Nights at Freddys. So if you ever used cardboard in the past, you may be familiar with this. The little video here didn't really impress me. But again, maybe they didn't show much of it, but you're like in a control room and the power goes out. So it doesn't have a price. I think I don't know if it's free or not, but you can go ahead and let's see, get it. I think it's in the Oculus Rift store. So, and I didn't actually check to see what's in the Oculus Rift store. So let's see. No, sorry, that didn't take me where I thought it would. So there's another one for you. And then, as mentioned, what you can get in the Daydream, and then obviously, if you just do a search for Halloween, either the Apple iOS App Store or the Google Play Store, you can come up with tons of little apps, anywhere from 5 to 0 or free. So grab a few. They're pretty fun, especially if you've got a Daydream headset. All right, let's move on to the next items. And we'll close that one out. Let's see what this one is. So here is a little blurb from Android Police on the IT. This is how I found out about it. And you can just kind of run through here, as you can see, and as we did in the beginning of the podcast. There's mine, Dreamit. So if you want to try it, it's free. And let's move on to the next one. Which, are we there yet? Let me check my. Okay. So yeah, to sum up the theme about 3D Spookery, from 3D fabricating standpoint, a lot of people use it for cosplay, to create different parts and components. You can also use it to scan an entire body using the structure sensor in ITSEs, or using photogrammetry, or if you have a little bit more money, some of the more expensive scanning devices. And then you can create little versions of yourself, which I think is a little bit better than people who are just scanning and printing themselves in normal clothing. So something I would try. All right, actually, I've got a few from the past and I forgot to put them in here. So let me jump back to my show notes. So last week, I had one of my listeners. Okay, let's get this right. I had one of my listeners ask me, well, what's up with the Aura 3D? Sadly, it's now been 2 years, and if you go out to their comments area or their updates area, the last time is that they're shipping on September 27th, yet a number of people have not received any confirmation or information. As you can see here, I wrote to kind of ask, if they would contact me to give me more information, and they have not. So I don't know where they're at. Being somebody who backed them and not receiving information one way or another is a little disconcerting. I don't remember if I actually signed out a form. I'm pretty sure I did, identifying that I have changed address. So don't know, but if you're one of the ones that backed them, and probably a lot of it because we interviewed them at what was it, at the time that they had launched this, and both Chris and I had backed them. Sadly, it's still not available. But I found it was interesting. I don't know if I actually put in I don't have a link for it. But there's another group that I'll just jump down to the ones that I have. Backed. And I just, not getting this one. It's been 2 years. And again, remember, there's nothing that's obligating these, especially before a particular date. And I can't remember the date now. But there's nothing obligating Kickstarter ever providing you a product. But this one really kind of has disappointed me. One, even though the original price was $2.99, it jumped because they changed what you actually got in the package. So many people, including myself, increased it. I think I spent another $200 to $300 on additional accessories for it. And sadly, like many people, and let's jump out there, they have not received anything. And can't remember who, I think there was a little robot that just was launched and finally making it out to the backers. And it had been 3 years. So I wrote, well, what about this one? This one's been out for even more years. And sadly, it's still not available. And here's my little comment. As mentioned, I'm planning to talk about it, which I am right now. So the 6th Sense, if you remember, made over $500,000 by 2,383 backers. Since then, they've also taken in pre-orders. So I'd assume they've got over $1 million in backing, and still no product is available. I reached our, as I mentioned, put a comment in here to reach out to others and have them email me, and never received an email. So my thoughts are nobody has actually received it. Supposedly some developers had received a version of this. And I don't know if all those had been put through, but I do know that I have not received mine. I have asked and had interviews with them to to go out to where they were going to assemble these, I think in San Diego. Nothing has come of that. And that was it last year? So we're now looking at, when was this set up? Let's go back to the original campaign. Yeah, as of October 12th. Yeah, so October 12th, 2013. So the anniversary for 4 years is come and gone, and still crickets. And obviously many people are upset. If you go into the comment area, as you can see, my own comment. So here you go. And what really aggravated me about them, and if you've been following the show, you know I've talked about them several times, is not only did they take people's money and make promises of a product that was just going to be 3 months, 6 months, but if you read their updates, they had not even gone into manufacturing with as much as the plastic molds. And the last time they've commented is July, and then they spelled manufacturing, so that doesn't bode well. And I made a point about that in July 5th. But they hadn't even created the plastics for this device. And then I had seen them at several shows, which in my own experience are not cheap. So I'm wondering, how did you get the money? Why aren't you spending it on this product? Yet you're showing up in all these shows, promoting this, taking even more pre-orders. And then the gall last year, I think it was last year, at GDC, they were showing off their new mobile unit and then requesting, and I think there is something in one of these updates, for people to move to the mobile version instead of this. And a lot of people obviously didn't, because why would you? Because if you can't even come out with this product, what makes people think that you're going to come out with a mobile version? And so very, very frustrating. A lot of people had a lot of money tied up in this. Yet from the standard media, like The Verge, who, talked about the delays, but in my opinion, felt that whatever they were being told, which I had been told on several occasions throughout the last 3 years, that it was just around the corner. They kind of perpetuated or regurgitated that same information. And the same thing with some of the others, or they don't even comment on it. And I think this is sad, but I think it lends itself well that a lot of the media have become like an extension of these companies' advertising campaign. And then when they get egg on their face, they try to, cover it up a little bit. Sadly, no one pays me for this show. And I'll say whatever I feel is necessary, which will be a little bit later about the Google Pixel 2 XL that I purchased. And that's another key. A lot of these products that I have are not given to me. I buy them. So I'm pretty much giving you the feelings that I have in actually using the products. And sometimes I'm frustrated, sometimes I'm disappointed. And let's see, I think I put it in the show notes. One of the other updates, well, let's kind of go through the rest of them here. Let's see. Yeah, is the iPhone X or 10, sorry. The iPhone 10 pre-orders came out Thursday night or early Friday morning, and I was very disappointed. Well, actually, wasn't. I went out there and it still said that I could pre-order, but the date had jumped all the way to December, and I said, "The hell with it. I'm not interested." And one of the reasons I'm not interested is even though it has a great OLED screen and will supposedly in the same form factor as the smaller 8. Also, the scanner here was of interest to me, but they've kind of crippled it in the sense that it more than likely the optics and power, as I've mentioned on previous shows, will only allow you to scan your face. And I was thinking of creating kind of like a periscope type device so that you could create a rear facing version of it, like I have done with the structure sensor, because interesting enough, you can use the structure sensor in a mirror and scan yourself. So I thought, well, let's try that here. But, I don't really think it's worth it. And I'm very concerned that they push this technology and the front facing security system, and there may be some problems with it. So I'm going to take a wait and see attitude to this. The other thing that I predicted is that many people jumped out to get this and to sell it for a profit as soon as it came available. And again, this is not the first time I've seen this. So I'm just going to hold off on it. I'll find somebody in the local area who has one to do some of my own test. I'll go out to a store to see if there's some available. But here they said by Saturday morning, 7,693 listings. Where were they at? In the $1,600 range. Now, isn't that just that's crazy? And these are pre-orders, so they haven't even received the unit yet. They're selling it. So what happens if they don't even receive their pre-order for whatever reason? Let's say Apple can't fulfill it. Appears like this one here doesn't even identify it's a pre-order, just says free shipping. So to me, I think this is appalling. I feel that a number of people have moved in this direction. For those of us who have wanted more interest in this product for either design, development, have lost out. I think the way that Apple handles their developer group, is somewhat sad. They're great at providing early versions of their software, but that has not been the case with the hardware. So what you're going to get is people who basically want to do animated emojis and have the latest cool item instead of actually finding a good use for this technology. So that's really disappointing. Oh, well, I'm not going to talk about that anymore. Let's move on to the other update. You may have seen or not, the Microsoft finally kills off the Kinect, but the the question I had, and I didn't really get any firm answers, this is the Kinect way back when it was a structure sensor type device, and that's what everybody's talking about. But the thing is, the recent version, which I have purchased, the developer version, the Kinect 2 is a time of flight. It actually uses different technology, and some people say, well, it's a better quality. I did not find that. Some of the applications that I've designed and worked with Occipital, the structure sensor did as well or even better. And I think mainly the difference is the structure sensor works hand in hand with the iPhone camera, which has progressively gotten better with each iteration of the iPhone or the iPad. This is still stuck at either, I think it's 1080p, where I'm doing 4 times that resolution and probably as much dynamic increase in capability as well. The ITSY software that I showed earlier does a great job of providing high resolution, what do you want to call it, mesh texture captures with a very reasonable size mesh. So having one of these, and plus having several of the PrimeSense compatible versions by Asus Action, as well as the Xbox version, yeah, they're great. They worked out well. I think the structure sensor is the next evolution, and they will have another product coming out very soon for OEMs called the Core that will provide even better uh, structure sensor scanning ability with its dual infrared cameras. That yeah, this is, I can't say sad or surprising. I thought that they would eventually happen. I don't think the sales are there. And there are other products using the same technology that are available. So where do we go with this? So essentially the Kinect is now gone, but its technology lives on supposedly in the HoloLens, which is true. But again, it's not structure sensor. It is line of sight, or I'm sorry, time of flight, which is a whole different technology than the original version, which I think kind of died 2 to 3 years ago, uh, especially since PrimeSense is now part of Apple. All right, so what else do we got? Okay, that's our updates. Let's get right into our first items. Let's see. Geez, I keep missing these. Let's go back. So I thought this was interesting. I have worked with Proto Labs. They're, I think, out of Minnesota, if I remember correctly. And I don't know why. Here we go. So I thought this was an interesting note that the Proto Labs did I guess they looked at their quarterly revenues, and they've shown that they have increased, as you can see there, from this quarter last year, 12.7 increase in quarter 3. So here's your 3 months ending September 30, 9 month. So clearly they have made a sizable bump from the previous year, which bodes well for 3D fabrication. Proto Labs really has a great service. If you've never tried them out, go out to their website. They have a lot of tutorials and specifications in using their services. Not only do they provide SLS, they provide injection molding as well as the molds themselves. And they have a great sales force that wants to work with you. The only thing that has kind of shied me away in the past is their pricing. Even though you can get parts faster, they're more expensive. And Shapeways, for my needs right now, has worked out better. But I do plan to use them more as I moved into the second tier of my manufacturing process for the NeoDIO Play. So that's good news. The other thing that I thought was really good is kind of little heartwarming. So let's see if I can find it. I must have skipped right over this, so I apologize for that. So what I'll do is I'll bring up both at the same time. So I thought this, is another one of those heartwarming, touching stories. This was a product printed by Stratasys, but a lot of us are already familiar with this type of design. In fact, Chris had printed this out early on in one of its earlier iterations, but they printed this based upon her size requirements, and she will be throwing out the pitch. I'm not a baseball watcher, but I'm probably thinking that would be pretty cool. The fact is that she'll be able to do this. So, as with many of these children, they have rare birth defects. So, she was born without 3 middle fingers. So, this actually helps her provide the appendages she wouldn't have. We can jump out into Thingiverse and actually see this model. So if you're interested in fabricating yourself, it's called the FlexiHand 2. And as mentioned, Chris actually printed out the previous version. You have these little controllers here to actually manipulate the hands, little videos here of it in use. So by using wrist movement, it gives you a grip capability. So a pretty cool little unit. As mentioned, Chris actually had this, and I was able to play with it. And very little nice thing that Stratus is doing. But there are other people who have been doing this for some time. Stratus isn't the only one, but glad that they're contributing to this. All right, so let's move on to, I think we're finally in the right area. This is a product that I just got invited to be part of their, what do you want to call it, pre-beta stage. And I'm looking forward to working with this. This is using the Unreal Engine, but more importantly, it allows a data flow directly from, now it says 20 CAD and digital creation sources, including 3ds Max, but I haven't really identified what these 20 CAD applications are. I do have a student version of 3ds Max that I'm working with, so I will try it with that. I have a follow-up on this next week. I have a little project I'm working on now, which I will share with you. So it'll be interesting to see how well this works going directly from 3ds Max. That is not my favorite application. However, if you're somebody who works in 3ds Max, this might be a unique application. Hopefully they'll have other, again, I'll have to look into specifically what 20 CAD applications, but hopefully it will work when other tools become available with other applications, maybe Maya, hopefully cross fingers, even Blender, which would be really great because I've been spending a lot of time in Blender. And that way you can go right from Blender directly into Unreal and save probably, at least in my case, a few hours rebringing textures in, redoing meshes. Maybe this has a feature going directly into baking. But here's two different versions. Here's a version in Unreal, and then here's a V-Ray rendered version. Actually, it's Corona Render, which is the current renderer. So as you can see, they're very close. However, one is a real time, you can walk around it, whereas the other one probably took, it actually doesn't say how long it took, but probably took a little while. So now keep in mind that if you've never used Unreal, Unreal has a baking period as well. So you have to essentially apply shaders to all of your surfaces, and that can take a little while. They do have some tools to extend that out to other machines or just get a very fast machine. It's not that bad, but it's not as instantaneous as you would like to think. But in that case, also Unity shares some of the same baking periods of time, and we're going to actually show something cool in a few minutes. Okay, so let's move on to our next item. Two items here. One, I just saw this, but essentially if you've got a mixed reality headset or planning to get one, you can launch in the web browser the Sketchfab application and then launch it and actually see the 3D models. And here they're showing my friend Lorsland's Van Gogh room, and him and I are working on a new project, and he just sent me some files, and I'm going to show a little bit off of that a little bit later. But I am fleshing it out even more Actually doing a little historical referencing, found out that the walls that were inside the room were not actually blue. They were actually supposedly purple. And the reason for it is the painting itself, the paints that were used, I think it's a cadmium yellow that actually goes to a brown, plus the blues lose some of their, I'm sorry, um, I'm assuming some of the reds also diminish, which gave it a more blue tint. And but actually the room supposedly was purple. And this is what they did through some analysis of some of his paintings. So I'm trying to recreate this to be more realistic, because my final goal in creating that, but I'll talk a little bit about that later, is to have you actually interact with Van Gogh. So, all right, let's move on. So if you have a mixed reality headset, try this out. WebVR is something that's being, actually I've tried it before, inside the, where does it say? It said it here, where is it at? No, I missed it. Their web browser, which is Edge, the Edge browser. So just pull up the Edge browser while you're in there, and you'll be able to bring up this website and use it. Pretty cool. I'll have to try that. The thing that I thought was really cool that was mentioned last week was the Sketchfab Inspect models and textures. So here's a little video. Is that a video? No. Actually, it's the Sketchfab model. So we could go through here, which you could do before. You could change and look at the wireframe, and then you can look at the base color. Let's go back to that. Metalness, roughness. So you can look at all the different textures or mapping. Like here's the normal map. You can see that he had certain areas that provide emission. Here's your specular map. And then here's the metalness layer, roughness, which provides kind of like a glossy. And then, gosh, here's some of the other things, material capture, and then material capture with surface. And then also you can, as you saw earlier, view the vertices. And then also UV checker, which is kind of cool. You can see how it was unwrapped. So these are all kind of neat little features now that are available. So you should be able to do this on any different model. I don't know if that's something that you have to allow in your models itself. I guess I could go out and look at it. See, now we're on the blog. So let's go to Sketchfab and see if we can apply this to any of the models. So let's look at this one. Okay, so there we go. So we can look at the vertices. So since these were scanned, obviously he probably didn't put much effort into creating different layers. There's your UV, as you can see. And I found this with a lot of scanning applications. They don't do a great job of creating UV unwraps. So I've had to go in and actually redo some of the unwraps to make them more efficient. But the fact is you can now go in there and look at all kinds of models. I think is pretty cool. So let's see if we can find something else to look at. Let's go animals and pets. So it's going to be fun to explore this in the Daydream headset. That's kind of a spooky little character. All right, so let's look at the model. Let's look at the UVs. Yeah. Could be a little bit better. That's a dense model. Let's look at the base color. No metalness, no roughness, no specular. So it looks like this something more than likely was scanned in as well. Yeah, so I don't know. It says he made it. Cool though, like it. Very neat. Okay, so let's move on to the next item. Let's see where we're at. 3Ds and, well, we already talked about the Kinect being killed, but healthcare users will carry on. And the reason for this, as mentioned, I have worked not only on my own app for scanning feet, but also had talked to the Shriners Hospital in where was it, Sacramento, about using the structure sensor for scanning children who have been burned severely. So I'm not surprised that it lives on. This person makes some claims of the Kinect 2, which I don't agree with. But the fact is, you can buy structure sensors from other companies. So this will continue to go on. They mentioned one, but there's actually a couple of others that are out there. And clearly, the occipital structure sensor is still around and can be purchased. So, and it uses the OpenNI library or version 2. So you will be up to date. And if you want to do any of your own programming, it's still out there and open source. So might as well go out and try it. Okay, so let's move on to, I thought this was a cool item. Speaking of the Kinect hardware, as mentioned, the HoloLens uses a structure sensor in its system to allow for depth information. And what they're doing here is more of an augmented reality screen system that allows them to wear it, see screens in front of them, and obtain information. Here we see them. Let's play the little video. Actually, I have it here, so I'm going to play this.
El proyecto de la realidad mixta lo hemos iniciado en el Hospital Gregorio Marañón, fundamentalmente en el campo de la cirugía ortopédica en cirugía oncológica, de la mano también de una empresa española, Exovite. Definimos un poco cuáles podían ser las necesidades y nos dimos cuenta de que las gafas HoloLens eran las que cubrían a priori las posibilidades de integración de la información holográfica en quirófano, ¿no? Las gafas permiten tener esa información proyectada en tiempo real directamente en una pantalla transparente y lo hacen directamente sobre todo el campo visual. Y eso era muy cómodo para no interferir con la visión natural de un cirujano y que fuera un sistema poco intrusivo. Estuvimos viendo las posibilidades de desarrollo para poder integrar toda la imagen radiológica en las gafas, vimos que era posible. Y el primer paso fue definir una cirugía oncológica donde poder proyectar información del paciente, su anatomía, su reconstrucción 3D y todo el estudio radiológico para que estuviera en tiempo real durante la intervención. La ventaja que tienen estas gafas en concreto es que te crean un espacio virtual holográfico en el que puedes integrar información real con información virtual, ¿no? De ahí viene la información mixta, que tienes un ordenador metido dentro de la gafa, de tal forma que es capaz de mapear, de registrar el espacio, hacerse una idea de las distancias, los tamaños y sobre eso poder colocar todos los objetos tridimensionales, objetos holográficos, en la posición y el tamaño que tú quieras. Y tú puedes con gestos, sin necesidad de tocar nada, porque además estás estéril, puedes ir colocando los objetos y controlando la gafa, bien por voz o bien por gestos, para colocar esa información proyectada en la zona que tú quieras de la mesa de operaciones o del propio quirófano, ¿no? Es muy cómodo, sobre todo la opción de poder configurar.
I'll turn that down. If you speak Spanish, I apologize for it. The link for this is out on YouTube, so you'll be able to see it for yourself. So the whole point is they're able to use this feature to, let me turn that down, I got some echo, to essentially to provide information, as you can see there. They're looking at MRIs as well as CT. They can position them. Obviously, he's doing that more for demonstration, but he can just put his hands up into the air, not actually have to touch anything. So I think from a sterilization process, this would be a great opportunity. Plus, he can position his fingers um, and look at something while actually doing the operation. So clearly, I think this is very exciting. And as the HoloLens improves and the FOV increases or other products become available, I can see this being hugely advantageous. All right, so let's jump back to the article. So there you go. Clearly a win for Microsoft. And as I've said before, Microsoft has pushed itself both in the medical and the educational market and actually AEC, our architectural engineering curriculum and careers, so that you can utilize this for planning. And then with the mixed reality headsets for VR and be able to walk around, which is something that I've been working with, I think that they've got a huge win here. And I really don't want to mention their names, so I won't. But, somebody else is obviously clamoring to get a lot of attention. They have a lot of money, so that should make it very clear about their cool product. But it's now been said that it'll be about $15,000 to $2,000, which is cheaper than the HoloLens, but it will not be self-contained, which I don't think is a huge advantage, and it'll be like a two system. So it'll be interesting to see how large and bulky the headset is. But there's rumors that they may announce something very, very soon. Okay, so let's move on. Let's see what else we got. Let's go right into the scanner section. I thought this was good because I've been a huge fan, even though I don't own an Einscan 3D. I think their pricing and their goals have been, what do you want to call it, enthusiastic. And not only have they provided a decent scanner, but they have also allowed museums to borrow it, and they've set up their own repository of models for free that you can download that they use using the Einscan and Pro versions. But the thing that I have been concerned with, which now have been quieted, is they partnered with Verisur to allow them to bring in this raw data into the application and convert it into CAD drawings. And so that, to me, is a very important step and will only solidify the Einscan Pro scanner in that market. And I think for about 3,500 to 5,000, so it's very reasonable compared to some of the other solutions. So hats off to them. One day I might be able to afford one. Okay, move on to the next item. This is another scanner item, but it's a little unique. Mixed reality capture, we talked about it before. Use a slew of cameras. I don't remember how many, 30, no, it's a lot. I can't remember, but essentially they capture video from different perspectives and then fuse that all together into a kind of an animated mesh, and they call them HoloLens, or excuse me, holograms. And here we go. There's a little video. So as you can see, they can animate, and then these become available very easily in the Cliff House desktop, so that you can bring them down and put them into there and walk around them. And here, as they're seeing, this guy's showing some, well, from a medical perspective. So here they're showing it being used specifically with the HoloLens, but these are available and here you can see them using it on a desktop. And I'm hoping, and I have not seen it yet, that with the new feature that can be used on laptops or surfaces, you should be able to have these little animated objects. There we go. There's a, yeah, so. And they really look that good. So pretty impressed with it. They have 3 studios open up, one in San Francisco, where they say that they were, one obviously in Washington, San Francisco. Yeah, and there was one other, and I can't remember where that one was located. So they'll have 3 of them all together, and one of them obviously is near me. I hope somebody gets one in Portland. Maybe I'll discuss with them, maybe open one up here. Obviously, the cost would be pretty severe, but if they need somebody to man it, I guess I'd like to do that. I think this is the future. The fact is that you can walk around an object using your headset. And let's say somebody, I had a weightlifting example that I have shown off a number of times, but let's bring it up. Yeah, here we go. That was a good one. So I'm not a golfer. Maybe the president would appreciate that, but he probably doesn't need it because he's the best golfer. But so imagine be able to scan and then go in and watch a person from all different aspects, and that's what this allows. So and the fact is, I think it's 30 frames per second, so it's not obviously high frame, but it's enough to get a very good feel of the motions. I could see this being used in martial arts and other forms where you need to look at a person's form from multiple perspectives. Obviously, this is one of the things that people feel they still need to go and be present in a physical environment because it gives them that ability to move around. So this will allow that. And having different studios that you can go to and rent out, I think is important. Now, someone made the point that this would be expensive. I don't know any. I'll reach out to them and find out exactly what it will cost. But I thought that's kind of cool. And that was in our 3D scanner darkly section. All right, so on to our VR section, and I've got to hurry up. Only one item here. This has exceeded the Oculus Rift as far as Kickstarter project at 2.45. I'm, as mentioned on the show a few weeks back, reluctant. Supposedly it's lightweight. It touts itself as being 8K. Keep in mind, it is not. It is essentially 4K per eye, but it is still higher than anything else. And people who have tried it like it. The other thing that needs to be addressed here is that it does not provide the full 4K per eye. It is upscaled, so the content actually is not at this particular time. But people seem to think that it's a great experience who've had an opportunity to try it. The handsets people are concerned with. Also, the fact is, whatever version, you don't actually get the base stations. But yeah, looks like it's moving forward, and I can't remember, $300 to $400, I think was the initial setting for it. Let's go back out there and take a look. Oh, that was the original Oculus. Let's see. Yeah, there's the 4K, and I did talk about that because I have the original 4K. So this is in Chinese. There we go, English version. So let's jump out to their Kickstarter. All right, so where are we at? So you can get it for $399, estimated delivery January 2018, which is not bad, ships anywhere in the world. And all this has been unlocked. So the standard head strap, additional face cushions, a little light system and cooling fans, wireless transmission, which is a $100 coupon. So pretty interesting. We'll have to see how that does in the future. At 400 though, and with so many other VR applications, devices out there vying for your dollars, better be darn good. Oh well. Let's move on to, where are we at now? I guess that's about it. So let's jump right into my item. So I already kind of discussed it in the theme. That was interesting. Let's see if it comes back. Technology. Well, we can skip that. I'll just show some images. So this is a render that I did in a program that I talked about, SimLabs, of my additions to the Rustlin room. Him and I are working on this. So essentially what I want to do is be able for a person to interact with the items that you see here, actually go up and start drawing on his canvas, which he probably wouldn't appreciate, but also have a virtual version of him in the scene, so that you can interact with him as well and learn a little bit about the history of him. I think that would be very cool, and I think that's one of the better opportunities for VR, is to be able to interact with people from our history in a very lifelike manner. As you know, that I guess the big news is Saudi Arabia just gave citizenship to a robot, which I think is kind of interesting. Um, And some people obviously are very concerned with that. Looks like I better just reset that. That was a little odd. So I have this, and then this is it being baked and brought into the Unity engine. So you can walk around. Here we are on the other side. So the idea is to be able to walk around, interact with the objects in there, and like I said, there'll be a VR animatronic of Van Gogh himself in there. So looking forward to creating this and making it available in Steam, and which will also be for the mixed reality headset. So sadly, I was a little disappointed with, let me finish up here. With Microsoft, they said that I have controllers on the way, but I sadly had not seen any. And was not able to do my original idea for the show today. So, oh well, I guess I'll have to work on that next week or the week after. All right, so let's move into the final item, and that is talking about the Pixel 2 XL. So, as you know, there's a lot of things that have been in the news about the Pixel 2 XL, and one of those items has been, here we go, so I should be able to try it now. Okay, so give that a moment. So what I did is I went through, and you can't see it here, but this is for the Galaxy 7. So I took each of the screen with a test pattern, as you can see here, what it would look like. Now the Galaxy 7 had a crack, so I think that's one of the reasons you have some artifacts that show up in here. But I wanted them all to be at the same distance, but focused and all at the same EV level of 0. And so let's move into the next one. So here we have the iPhone 7 Plus. And these are at high resolution and also RAW. And I will have in the show notes a link out to the Google Drive that these are available probably tomorrow. And as you can see in the screen behind me, there are some variations in the color. But this one is for the Pixel 2 XL. And the thing that cannot be seen here, and I can't really magnify that. Let's see if I can do that here. Yeah, let's zoom in. There we go. and you won't be able to see it because it's somewhat blurred, but you see the speckling in there, or the noise that people are complaining about. So let's be clear, the things that are being said are a problem with this particular device is the burn-in, which is obviously the most important right now. I have not experienced that myself, and I've been using mine for a week. So I don't know if it was a particular batch that reviewers got that I obviously did not get. The noise is apparent, and that is seen here. I don't think it's actually in the emission or the OLED screen. I think it's in the laminates. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but there are different laminates and obviously a touch screen, a capacitance screen placed on top of that emission device. And I think there's some refraction, and that's what we're seeing here. Clearly, its frequency, or it's most apparent in the 40% range here. You can still see it in the 30. And as it goes down lower and lower, it doesn't seem as much as visible, but the 40 and 30% is the most apparent. And then as you go higher in brightness, it obviously does not seem apparent anymore. And my theory is it is actually the laminate or the materials used in each of those layers that the light emission goes through. It is not actually in the OLEDs themselves, which is still a problem. And the reason that I feel confidently that that's the case is that when using it in the Daydream View or even my own Neo Play Dream Treader headset, it looks like it's like a smudge or like a layer on top of the screen itself that seems to be fixed. So it doesn't really change when you change the scene underneath it. So that's why I don't think it is actually the emission device itself. So finally, the last item that people are concerned with is the blue shift. I will have a test out this week. A little Daydream app that has objects that shift from the left screen to the right screen. And the reason for that is that if that shift is present when you're using your Daydream view, which I have not seen with a continuous gray screen, that could be a problem. Now, this is all up to people's preferences as far as moving the screen when you have it in your hand and seeing that blue shift. I personally don't think it's an issue, and I think one of the positives of it is if it is, which I'm pretty sure, the circular polarizer, that's also going to have an effect on light coming down on the screen. And so that will help enhance the contrast so that it's seen in daylight. So that could be a positive from that. So before you immediately go back and throw it out, I would pause from that perspective. Burn-in supposedly is going to have newer software in 8.1. Some people are concerned about the drab colors, muted colors. I don't have an issue with that at all. I like accurate color systems. So that is not a problem with me. In fact, I felt the screens on the Samsungs are overly saturated. And I noticed a lot of people like to overly saturate their images on Facebook and Instagram and any of those other sources, which I don't like. I like realistic color and strive to get that. So there you go. There's a little image of it. There is some resolution. Let's move on to the Pixel XL. Notice there is still some noise, but it's a little cleaner. So again, I think it's the laminated process. Here is the screens on the iPhone. Again, this is something that's created the more from the between the camera and the screen itself. And then here is the Galaxy 7. So clearly there is more noise in the Pixel 2 XL screen. All right, so I think that's about it. Let's see what else I have. No, I think that's about it. So let me jump back to my main screen. And well, enjoy your Halloween, and hopefully you get a chance to be spooked by something. I don't know. Go see it if you haven't. It's kind of scary. If that's not your thing, obviously there might be other movies out there. And maybe go to a costume party. If you do go to a costume party and you're a listener of this show and you do scan yourself, please send me a link. I'll show it in next week's show. Yeah, next week's show. I think I may actually dress up again as a Game of Thrones character, but I have a Pennywise, what do you want to call it, mannequin set up that I'm going to put in the yard with a light. So as you trip it, or a light detection system, so you trip it, it causes some lights to come on, and Pennywise to ask if you want a balloon. So looking forward to that. On Tuesday, I've already done a lot of, you may have seen some of my tweets. I've already put some things in the yard. So it's kind of like a long climb to get up there. Plus, going to get some helium and blow up some red balloons. Gee, what's the obvious reason for that? Oh, well, enough rambling here. This is Mike Balzer. This is All Things 3D. This is 3D in Review for 10/28/2017. And I'll see you next week. Bye.